Hey, wait a minute. Not that many people even watched the video. Word got out to millions of people who didn't watch the video, you know. Oh, come on. Okay, nearly 1 million people heard about it.
But is Neil Fox a terrorist? All I can say is, in all the time I have known him, he has never once blown up a building when there were any people in it.
No, that's not what I'm saying. It's not what I'm saying at all. Then what are you saying? I'm saying he can be an Arab, he can be a British person, he can be an American. He can appear to be whatever he wishes. Neil Fox is a shapeshifter. Yes, a reptoid shapeshifter.
When other children were getting plastic machine guns for Christmas and playing soldier, Fox would wrap a t-shirt around his head and go running around in a bedsheet. No one knew why. As he grew older, people were afraid to ask.
A reptoid shapeshifter. Yes, I've already told you. But say it now while we're recording, okay? He's a reptoid shapeshifter. And what's that? He's an interdimensional being with reptilian features who can change shape and appear human. Any sort of human. Who feeds on the blood of the living. Yes, exactly. That's exactly it. Hey YouTube, I'm Neil Fox, of course, creator of the Lucifer series, here today to talk about the key to Beelzebub as I see it, Beelzebub's Tales to His Grandson by To Gurdjieff. I started this discussion quite some time ago in 2 videos that I called Beelzebub's Tales to His Grandson 5 and Beelzebub's Tales to His Grandson 6. And I discussed the possible meaning of the year 223 by objective time calculation, but I never went on to discuss how 223 is equivalent to the year 1921 AD. Now, once upon a time, there lived an extraterrestrial named Beelzebub, who was an archangel. Archangels are extraterrestrials that ride around in spaceships at the center of the galaxy, according to Gurdjieff. And this particular extraterrestrial, Beelzebub, saw in the workings of the universe something he felt was irrational, illogical, and he objected to it. This led the center of the galaxy near to the brink of revolution. For this, Beelzebub was punished by being sent to our solar system early in its history, and he spent a lot of time observing Earthlings. Later on, once he was readmitted into the center of the galaxy, into the good graces of his endlessness, he spent many hours recounting his experiences in our solar system to his grandson. His sense of hydrogen, then there can be no doubt that he's talking about something. There, you see? See what? He's sneezing. So why is he sneezing? I'll tell you why. An alien implant up his nose, that's why. He had to stop the camera. Excuse that sneezing. I've got a fan blowing on me. There's dust. It's really, really hot. Planekurab is the name that Gurdjieff has for hydrogen. Okay? I'm trying to get at how non-literal he can be. Plane just is the English word in mathematics for, a dimensionless surface stretching out into infinity. Okay? It's a plane. It's a level. The plane of Kurab. Kurab is just a tiny little town in Iran. Okay? He loved playing around with Persian words, and Kurab is just this tiny little town. It's just this little nowhere place. So it's the plane of the very small. It's all he's saying. He's talking about the 7 cosmic substances and their crystallization, and hydrogen is one of them. And no, he's not talking about literal hydrogen. Kurab is also no doubt an allusion to Mount Korab on the border of Albania and Macedonia. It's the biggest mountain those two countries have. And so Gurdjieff is saying that the plane of the smallest is also the plane of the highest. Another example of that, and to do with hydrogen and these other elements, these 7 elements, is what he calls the inner Ansapalnian octave of their own solar system. Okay, what does Ansapalnian mean? Okay, well, octave is the clue. If you know about the ray of creation with Gurdjieff, it's his hierarchical way of putting exactly the same kind of thing he's talking about in more detail and nuance in the Enneagram. Okay, the Enneagram is circular, and the ray of creation chart is hierarchical, and it's his alternative to the tree of life. At least it amounts to that. Whether some would argue that it was any reference to it or not is beside the point. Now, Ansapalnian octave of their own solar system. It's all Armenian, and you drop the neon at the end, which is the same as saying Scandinavian, just discard that. And that gives you Ansapalnian, okay? The letter lun by itself can only mean the number 30. It cannot mean anything else in Armenian. That letter by itself represents a number, and that's the only way you can read it. So what does it mean? The phrase means, are heard by the residents of the house of 30. Okay? Now, because lun, alliterate, I'm mispronouncing that. It sounds more like loon. Okay. And that alliterates with loon, lunatic, lunar, luna, the moon. So there's something to do with the moon here, and there's something to do with the number 30, and quite a little paradox that relates to the beginning of the book when Gurdjieff is talking about the formation of the moon and the creation of something called the Kunda buffer, an alien implant. I won't get into that here. The number 30 combines Beelzebub's law of 3 with what G was about with 10 as a circle. I'll talk about all that some other time, but the short answer is that 30 sets the conditions for perfect balance and harmony. However, the association with the moon implies the hidden nature of these conditions. Now, Armenian, like English, is read from a reader's left to right. But since Beelzebub's Tales to his grandson is one, at least in the view of the Lucifer series, is one vast allusion and homage and tribute to Arabic gematria, and since Arabic is read from a reader's right to left, often with phrases, especially Armenian phrases, Gurdjieff would make the phrase read as meaningfully one way as the other. He would reverse it, and you could be reading it from right to left. So, Ansapalnian would read lun up as na, okay, which means if you take 30 as implying harmony and balance, it would be harmony and balance without this or that. Okay, that doesn't make immediate sense, and it isn't even grammatically correct. And I'll get into how grammatically incorrect it is some other time. I don't have time for that right now. But often words and prefixes and suffixes are meshed together in words in Kabbalah, and it's not grammatically correct, but it makes some kind of sense at first glance to someone who's familiar with the language. Okay. So with that in mind, the mentation here is that true and ultimate harmony and balance is absent the mind's habit of delineating this as opposed to that. The particularity of this and that is getting at subject-object consciousness, okay, the duality of linear awareness, your conventional everyday way of experiencing reality, okay. With higher consciousness, theta wave consciousness, the distinction between subject and object dissolves, and so this and that dissolves. Particularity dissolves. All is one. All anyone has to know about the ray of creation, if they've never heard of it before, is that, like I keep saying, everything is about becoming the source of your body, physical sensations, physical perceptions, and then becoming the source of your emotions, and then the source of your thoughts, and all of this combined in a totality brings you up to what Gurdjieff calls the fourth body. Okay, the yogis call it Atman, and the higher self. Beelzebub specifically is designed to get in touch with the source of your thoughts, which is kind of hopeless unless you can get in touch with your body and emotions first, okay, and touch bases with that, which is why it makes for such a ludicrous enterprise to try to be relating to hardcore Gurdjieffians. How many of you out there have met hardcore Gurdjieffians who seem to be feeling types? Anybody? Oh, man. Huh? How about that? They're notorious unfeeling geeks. And so my approach to all of this is Gurdjieff for the rest of us, apart from the awful people we meet who are Gurdjieffians. Online and offline, we meet these people. There are feeling people who get in touch with Gurdjieff and become very curious about him and read him extensively. But they're always invariably interested in other things as well. Okay, and it's that kind of eclectic personality that the Lucifer series is geared. And to you guys, I say, obviously this is a workbook. Obviously it has a lot to do with the unknown words. You're eventually going to encounter a mile-long word, and you're going to see Persian in it, and Arabic, and French, and Latin, and Greek, and Armenian, and some Akkadian. I'll get to that. I'll get to Akkadian next time. Sarmaun. And yet you'll have broken it down, and okay, it's got to be something like this, and there's still going to be letters left over. There's going to be whole syllables that just seem like gibberish. And that's when you have to admit that a lot of the alphabets that Gurdjieff plays with have their own gematria, letters representing numbers. And there's times the numbers become unavoidable. I will seal the deal with this case when I equate 223 with 1921. I welcome hardcore Gurdjieffians to beat me to it, to do a video response to this, and explain how there's an equivalence between 223 and 1921. Okay. So, anyways, it's a workbook. It's about the unknown words. It has a lot to do with numbers. The Lucifer series strays off the beaten track when it's about numbers, because I don't think that's a widely held notion amongst Gurdjieffians that numbers have much to do with anything, even though the book opens with numbers and then it follows up with all these unknown words page after page, which would tell any occultist something, but it seems to tell them nothing. And what else? Oh, Gurdjieff constantly puts ordinary words in quotes. Okay, at first it seems like the alien Beelzebub is explaining something to his grandson, and he's saying, we call it this and they call it that, and he puts it in quotes. And that convention holds for a little while, but after a while, he's just putting words in quotes for no apparent reason at all. I really recommend that you look them up and pay attention how Gurdjieff is using those words and how he's relating those words to unknown words, because he really wants you to do that. He wants you to see something about those words with new eyes. He wants you to look at the etymology of the word. He wants you to look more closely at that word and how it can be used. Also, like with a word like hydrogen, he capitalizes it. That's also the same, amounts to the same thing. He's capitalizing a word for no apparent reason, and you just go look it up. In the case of hydrogen, it's a Greek compound meaning water creator. And that really gets down to a joke about urination. I'll have to tell you sometime, but it gets really very involved. How do you know that Neil Fox is a reptoid shapeshifter? I've seen him. You mean you've seen him change shape? Yes, I grew up with him, and as a boy I saw him. But you're British. So was he when we were little.